Historical archaeology is the study of the modern world. Our historical archaeology in Detroit is mainly oriented to understanding what life was like for the people who made and lived in Detroit at a transformative time of its history into an industrial powerhouse of the 20th century. At the site of Roosevelt Park in Corktown, there was a working class community that stood in front of what is now the Michigan Central Railroad Station. They were first and second generation immigrants, Germans, Irish, Canadian. There was one household that was occupied by the same family for 14 years. They were an Irish-American family. And during that period of time, 2 of the adult children passed away. We looked further into the death records, and it turns out that one of the daughters, who was in her 20s, passed away from a lung disease. We thought maybe we can find some archaeological evidence that speaks to her health concerns at the time, or maybe environmental conditions there in Corktown that would illuminate more about the causes of her disease or her experiences treating herself. The first were containers of medicine that had remnants of labels on them. Some of those medicines were used to treat chest congestion or coughs. They were inhaling particles of charcoal, fly ash, small spheres of glass that we call slag. It was a very, very unhealthy environment for them to live in. When African Americans came to Detroit, they experienced extreme amounts of segregation, and they were prohibited from purchasing or renting homes in most areas of the city. Inkster was developed primarily as a community for African American residents. In 1950, the Little family purchased a small 800 square foot house in Inkster, and between 1952 and 1953, Malcolm X, who was then went by Malcolm Little, came to reside there after he was released from prison. He began to write more and get more involved in the political scene and the religious scene in Detroit and the Nation of Islam, and he changed his name officially from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X. So the Malcolm X house as it stands now is boarded up, it's pretty dilapidated, it's been abandoned for a couple decades, and its reconstruction will be based on what the house looked like in the early 1950s when it was first constructed and when Malcolm X lived there. So if there's going to be a major effort in renovating the house and recreating its exterior and interior, we know nothing about the colors of the house at the time. So archaeology has a purpose in terms of excavating fragments of the architecture of the house exterior and maybe some of the interior as well, that will be put to work in the reconstruction of the house. And that's what archaeologists do, to look at change over time when it comes to understanding the urban growth and transformations of the city.
This program was made possible by a grant from CTN, the Community Telecommunications Network.